Hi there. Welcome. I'm Bob Thompson, and I'd like to welcome you to the Philanthropic Planner Program. We've been doing this about 11 years, and it is probably the most boring subject that you'll ever see on TV, but we have some loyal viewers. And for you newcomers, we'll tell you why we produce this crazy program. It's about a boring subject of philanthropy, and it is one of trying to create a meaningful dialogue that's friendly enough, and it's for, you and I as philanthropists, and it's for volunteers, and it's also, and I get feedback every once in a while from planners, attorneys, financial planners, insurance people, trust officers, just to check in between, should we say Boston Red Sox right now, but, the sore subject, but commercial-wise, they tune in for 5 minutes, 3 minutes, and say, we're just checking to see if you're really telling the truth, Bob. So welcome. It's one of trying to simplify the complexity, talking about philanthropy in general, and that we can all be philanthropists. You don't have to be a seven-figure multimillionaire to be a philanthropist. We spend a great deal of time talking about the importance of volunteering, that's a form of contributing to philanthropy in a big way, because if we took the number of hours devoted by volunteers, there are 1.5 million 501c3 charities in this country. And the people that work, not volunteers, but the people that work for nonprofits represents about 11, almost 12% of our total employment in this country. So it's a viable part of our economy in more ways than just working. It is so important to the local community, to the state, region, to the country, and to the globe. So here we are talking about philanthropy and what it means to you and me, what it means to our community. And I have to confess, this is the first program in 11 years where I didn't start off the program with the recent copy of the Chronicle of Philanthropy. I just returned from a trip to Missouri, and I'm still in jet lag or hangover or whatever, but I don't have the Chronicle of Philanthropy for this program. But I do have a very important thing that we're going to talk about, and you may have noticed that this is a folder from the Hartford Foundation, Public Giving, and I attended a very important meeting last evening, and I thought we'd devote most of our program to the content, the material, and everything from that program. Anyone that has seen us before, we struggle with how do we title a particular program, and we do some crazy things. No props for this program. So you have to put up with just crazy Bob talking about gifting and the different ways of gifting and so on. But our title today is Challenges Within Reach. Challenges Within Reach. Let me go back and share with you kind of how I got involved in this crazy stuff. I'm a Y kid. I was raised by the local YMCA in Warren, Ohio. And I have a lot of deep-seated feelings about the importance of a program like the YMCA and how the YMCA and other nonprofits exist. They exist through members of the community supporting that group. So I'd have to go back, 105, 115 years, but who's counting the years? But I have to go back to that because during school, first in my family to go to college, and it was only possible by the donations to the university by alumni and corporations and friends of the university. So that got me through, basically through undergrad and part of law school. My wife, God bless her, the saint that I married, put me through law school. But in addition to that, I was helped in a great way financially by the university also. So I give you that little bit of background, and we move the clock forward years-wise, and it was in 1986 or 7 where I went out to Indianapolis, kind of curiosity trip to look into what became the focus group of about 90 people gathered in Indianapolis to talk about what they referred to as councils or chapters or what have you. But the philanthropic development area was aware that large towns throughout the country and some smaller towns had groups of development people from nonprofits or people interested in philanthropy and so on. Well, from this group of 92 people, the National Committee on Planned Giving was started in 1988, I believe it was. And it only was possible for that international group, association of various councils out there, only possible by a gift by the Lilly Family Foundation. And it was a 3-year gift for, a meaningful gift for 3 years for operational, administrative, and to have a viable administration and part of this organization. Just as an aside, the Lilly Foundation or family is responsible for a lot of great things in the Midwest, but also they have the Lilly Family Philanthropic School in Indianapolis as a part of IUPUI, which, if you're not familiar with IUPUI, you can attend the school in Indianapolis, and in this case, the Philanthropic School, but you can select what degree or what diploma, what school you graduate from, either the University of Indiana or Purdue University. So IUPUI is where that comes from. But the Lilly Family Philanthropic School has now gone from not just an undergrad, but a master's and a PhD in philanthropy. So getting people more familiar with the various aspects of philanthropy. Very, very important development over the last 25 years. And I make reference to that simply because there was another organization in Indianapolis called the Renaissance Administration. And I went from this focus group and was introduced to the Renaissance people that really were responsible in a very short period of time of creating 5,500 to 6,000 charitable remainder trusts. That was the primary gifting tool that was presented, and there was certification and so on. So from a group of advisors called NARA, National Association of Renaissance Advisors, which kind of morphed over a couple of years into NAP, National Association of Philanthropic Planners, because there were more advisors that weren't a part of the schooling and the certification under Renaissance. So that kind of broadened the base of the numbers, the sheer numbers of advisors. So the National Association of Philanthropic Planners. Well, the NCPG, the National Committee on Planned Giving, also changed their name, its name over the years, Charitable Gift Planners. and trying to encompass more people that were interested in gift planning, not just development professionals, but other people interested. I give you that background a little bit because I'll come back to Lilly for a second. A number of years ago, the Lilly family and foundation, along with Kellogg came in a little bit later, but Lilly supported financially the seed money to create community foundations in each of the counties in Indiana. We moved to Kellogg. Kellogg did a similar thing with the counties in Michigan. So the dynamics, the benefits that came about by having community foundations within those counties. Now, up until that time, you had the major community foundations. Cleveland, for example. I was very familiar with the Cleveland Foundation way back. But we moved forward to the impact, the positive impact that community foundations have had, and private foundations, and just, I call them silos, which is, I haven't mentioned those in a fair, positive way in some of my programs, but the industry, if you will, of philanthropy is a forest of silos. And that's good, but there's an incredible danger and not so good by these silos not relating and combining their efforts in many cases. But I would say overall it's a good effect. So let's come back to the Hartford Foundation, and I wanted to devote most of the program today to challenges within reach, and the title of that is Made Possible by the Hartford Foundation's Greater Together Community Funds. Now, forgive me, I've got some clients and friends, some other advisors in philanthropy in about 5 or 6 different states, Ohio, Texas, Missouri, Florida, California. And what I'm talking about is local in this program. But there's a big significance, importance, if you will, in what is being undertaken here by the Hartford Foundation. There are other community foundations that are doing something similar. This is a relatively new approach, and I compliment the Hartford Foundation for their efforts. Recently, we had a listening tour by the new president of the Hartford Foundation, a young man that we had as a guest on our program earlier this year, came out of the Obama administration and focused on economic development, a very bright, dynamic guy, and former mayor of Youngstown, Ohio, and comes to the Hartford Foundation, and I've seen a dramatic change. I haven't always been a fan of the Hartford Foundation of Public Giving for a number of reasons, but put that aside, they are doing incredible things recently. I came out of that Indianapolis situation and found out that we didn't have a council in Connecticut, and yet we had all of these great nonprofits. We had great universities, Yale and Wesleyan, and hospitals, and I couldn't believe that we didn't have a council of planned giving here. So in 1989, we created the Connecticut Planned Giving Group. I try to tie that in to share with you the importance of this new effort and initiative by the Hartford Foundation. The community funds effort, basically, and I'm going to give you a brief overview, but basically the Hartford Foundation has a region of towns within their influence, if you will, of 29 contagious towns. And the Hartford Foundation is biting off a huge, huge challenge in coordinating their effort on the community funds with all 29 towns, rather than choosing a pilot program of 4 or 5 towns and building on that. They are taking all of the 29 towns and implementing a community fund, together community funds, they're calling it, and setting aside in their budget, setting aside $100,000 for each of these 29 towns. Now that's $2.9 million. But in addition to that, an incredible dedicated group of staff. The board of the Hartford Foundation has, in their wisdom and the guidance certainly of Jay and his management and staff, but the commitment of this group to support this idea of these community funds for each of the 29 towns. Now, that $100,000 is broken into 2 parts: $50,000 in endowment form and $50,000 on immediate use. In other words, grants that can be granted in the near future, today. And they don't like to talk about the future, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 7 years from now, or whatever. But I relate this and try to have the analogy and reference to the Lilly in Indiana and the Kellogg in Michigan. That if the success, and I think it will be successful based on their commitment and this mission of the Hartford Foundation, that in the future, we're going to see the benefit to the local communities to best serve the needs of and each of them are different. They're independent of each other. So the dynamics there is, here is the seeded money, like the Lilly commitment for 3 years back with the National Committee on Planned Giving, that it gives the local people the power to address faster the number of grants that are needed, but at the same time gives a pot of money in this endowment form for it to grow from gifts from the local community to this endowment portion. Okay, when you look at the bigger picture, it's an incredible opportunity, and I'm saying in the title of this, opportunities within reach. Opportunities within reach. The opportunities together in the local community, the challenges here. So when we look at development, when we look at raising money, there's only a limited number of dollars out there, but you have a big portion of this 1.5 million of 501c3s that are local, small nonprofits. There are hundreds of them created every year, application with the IRS to get that 501c3 certification. And the difficulty, it's like a large university, and we have 90 to 100,000 alumni. The constituency of that large nonprofit entity is such the unfair burden that the development department has in communicating with 100,000, 200,000 in their constituency. So having a grassroots program where the communication is up rather than trying to communicate to the sheer numbers. So I believe that this effort by the Hartford Foundation to seed a program in each of the 29 towns is a great opportunity for the local towns. Now, here are the challenges. I think, like Lilly and Kellogg, that they're going to be, this is kind of an incubator thing, that some of the 29 towns are going to be very successful in their effort. Some of the 29 towns are going to have a mediocre experience and they're going to struggle. And some of, unfortunately, a few, I hope none, but a few of the 29 are not going to have any success at all. And that's unfortunate, but it's the real world. So the Hartford Foundation and their staff, their management, are going to look at the successes, the not so successful, the failures or whatever, and build in and improve their program. Great opportunity for this part of the state, and I'm sure other community foundations are going to use the Hartfords and other cities that are kicking these things off as models, so that we can see a great deal of benefit down the road. When we talk about gifting tools, there are a lot of charitable giving tools that we can utilize. Some people are pretty negative when they say, hey, recently, have you seen that the giving has gone down a little bit because of the tax law change and the SALT provision in the new tax that we had last year? It has come down a little bit, but there are other reasons. But a large 90-some% of giving has nothing to do. The motivation is there. The byproduct, the after part is, yes, if I qualify within certain income, I can deduct certain things. But there has to be a philanthropic intent for any gift. I buy into the mission. I'm passionate about the mission. I want this nonprofit to succeed. The service to the community for those people being served, the ones that have the need, that's the byproduct of philanthropy. So when we look at these challenges that we have, people in the advisor side say that there is so much money that will be transferred from this generation, the baby boomers, if you will, to the next generation. But there is a great deal of that pie that can be devoted to charity. Now, in that case, we'll come back to taxes. On estate taxes, or when wills are probated and so on, do I have a personal bequest or a charitable bequest? And we, over the last 11 years, we've had success, in my mind, in known expectancies of future gifts, either through will or revocable trust that will become irrevocable trust, charitable gift annuities, donor advised funds, and so on. We have been, it's been mentioned to us and made known that we have almost $17 million of known expectancies. Now, anyone in development can say, with a great deal of history, data, empirical knowledge, that if you have a known block of expectancies, that you can multiply that by factors of 2, 3. Some of the biggest gifts to the American Society, or Cancer Society, for example, come from unknown. They unexpected. They were not aware that they were in a particular will and a charitable bequest. And we know that some people want to be private, and they want some gifts to be anonymous and so on. So again, and I have a couple minutes, and Karen will give me the hook. But at the end of this particular program, I wanted to kind of play with the idea of 5 magical opportunity minutes at the end of future programs. And if I can stick to that and remember that and not get distracted and carried away, but I would like to revisit how this effort by the Hartford Foundation, the community funds that are devoted, and kind of give a progress of that. And I would like to maybe over the next program talk about the process that's involved in this, and having a selection committee locally, and having an advisory committee that the selection committee is going to encourage and ask for applications, and have this advisory, because it's that advisory committee that's going to be responsible for receiving grant requests and filtering those, and that will be submitted, their recommendations submitted for grants for the distribution from the Hartford Foundation. Pretty exciting information, exciting development here. And if you are interested in being considered on the selection committee or the advisory committee, let me know. Give me a call. Contact the Hartford Foundation and their people. But this is not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a lot of time and effort. But I think it's certainly worth the time and effort. So if you are interested, take a look at the local newspaper. Check in with the Simsbury TV. We will have some updates there. We'll try to get this word out as quickly and as broadly as we can. We want an inclusive base. We want a good representation of the dynamics of our residents in our town, and if we can do that successfully, we'll have an incredible byproduct benefits. There are a number of you over the past few years who have created their own nonprofits, their own 501c3s, and they're always looking for ways to get out there and generate some interest in their missions. This is going to be an added tool, if you will, for that communication, because we're going to kind of be a magnet for some of these requests, because a lot of these go unknown, and it usually starts with family, friends of family, and then the word gets out that you can contribute and support that mission. Thanks for your time. I'm kind of excited about this. We'll give you some updates in the future, and that 5 magic opportunity minutes of this community fund. See you next time.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.